Okay, so it's time for the May wrap up. I'll pick out my book of the month and then talk about what I'm going to try to read in June. For all of these books that I finished in May, I did full video reviews and I'll post links down in the description if you want more information on those. The first book I finished was Masks of the Illuminati by Robert Anton Wilson. Very unique, different book. It's kind of a blend of historical fiction and fantasy, maybe even a little bit of horror thrown in there, and a couple light science fiction elements. I knew a little bit about Robert Anton Wilson before reading this, and I think that definitely helps to understand what you're getting yourself into. This is a very interesting book. He does some very interesting things in the writing of this one. He is a big fan of James Joyce and almost kind of tried to imitate some of his style at times. I've never read Joyce, so I don't know how well he pulled that off, but very good book. I definitely want to read more of Robert Anton Wilson's fiction in the future. And then next up was the Wife's Wildcard Pick. It's a series I've been doing with the wife where she's picking out a book out of my library for me. And I read this Ace Double by Sam J. Lundwall. One side had Alice's World, and the other side had No Time for Heroes. They were slightly linked short stories. Each one of these stories was about 120 pages, and I really enjoyed Alice's World. It's had some really great ideas. It was a lot of fun. It was a very fast, easy read. No Time for Heroes was kind of trying to be in the same universe or with some of the same concepts, but he really threw a lot of satire and over-the-top humor in it, and it didn't quite hit as hard for me as Alice's World did. But I definitely recommend Alice's World if you want to read a fun, fast, entertaining story, if you can find a copy of that Ace Double. And then next up was Islands in the Net by Bruce Sterling. This book kind of threw me off because I thought this was going to be kind of like a cyberpunk book. Turned out to not really be that at all. Maybe some of the punk elements, maybe not so much the cyber elements. But one thing's for sure, Bruce Sterling has a very good understanding of technology and where it was going to be going, because he wrote this in the late 80s. It took place, the story took place in 2022, and there was a lot of eerily similar aspects to our society that he was kind of anticipating. But overall, the story was a little slow at times. It revolved around a main character who she kind of got wrapped up into a conspiracy that I really didn't think she had a reason to be that wrapped up into it, but I did get some good comments in the video kind of explaining a little bit more. It makes a little bit more sense. It was the first book I read from Bruce Sterling, but I definitely want to read some of his short stories next, I think. And then after that, I read Simulacron 3 by Daniel F. Galouye. This was a fantastic book. It was written quite a while ago. Let's see, 1964. And he was really getting into the simulation hypothesis and taking it beyond even what we probably think of first with The Matrix, this simulated reality. He had that concept, but he went places that even movies like The Matrix and some of these other stories that have been written later really didn't go to. It was highly recommended. Daniel F. Galouye, I don't think is talked about enough. He only wrote 5 novels, and I plan on reading them all. Then after that was a reread of Lest Darkness Falls by L. Sprague de Camp. This is a fun book. I had recently read a bunch of L. Sprague de Camp's short stories, and I like him. He's very quirky. He's this weird intellectual that tries to throw some unique, weird humor into his stories. It doesn't always work, but this one is kind of a classic. It was originally written in like 1939 as a short story, and then the novel came out in 1941. He sort of invented a lot of tropes or refined some tropes about alternate history and alternate timelines, and some funny characters, some very interesting, like historically accurate ways someone would go about doing things if they were sent back in time. And it's probably one of these classics that everyone will read at some point, and I think everyone should. Okay, and then after that was the best of C.M. Kornbluth, and me and Matt from Science Fiction Reads and Richard Rempel from Vintage SF have been reading through all of these Ballantine Classic Library of Science Fiction series. It's all these best ofs that Ballantine put together. We all three love this one. I think Richard said it was his favorite one so far. We've read 9 of these. Me and Matt still think the Raymond Z. Galoon one was maybe slightly above this one. But Kornbluth, I think a lot of people maybe try reading some of his novels and don't quite like him as an author. But Frederick Poland here, who was really good friends with C.M. Kornbluth, said that Kornbluth was a master at the short story. And after reading this collection, I have got to agree. He wrote some amazing short stories in here that will stick with you, and the range from one story to the next and his economy of words were just amazing. Like, you've got to check this out. And I don't even think you have to check out this one. You could pick up any collection of Kornbluth short stories and probably just have a blast with it. And then the last book I read this month was Century Reign by Alastair Reynolds. And this was the first Reynolds that I had read. Probably, maybe wasn't the best place to start. I didn't think it was horrible. The beginning of it I really enjoyed. The second half definitely had some issues. One thing's for sure though, Reynolds took some really interesting ideas, blended all these different genres and ideas together into such a unique premise in the beginning of this one. It absolutely had me hooked. And then some issues kind of cropped up as I read more and more into the book. Definitely going to be reading more from him. Even though that wasn't like a total hit for me, I still want to read House of Suns and some of his other things for sure. So I'll definitely be reading more in the future from Reynolds. So now I'm going to pick my book of the month, and I'm going to have to go with Simulacron 3. This just is such an amazing book, written in 1964, doing some really interesting things that went on to become uber popular in both fiction and in film. And I don't think Galooey is talked about enough, so that's going to be my book of the month. Now, when it comes to what I'm going to read in June, I'm going to have a busy month of June. I'm not sure how many videos I'm going to be able to actually record. I have a bunch of options here. These are all things that I want to read here soon. But even though I'm not going to have a lot of time to maybe record videos, I might have enough time to do a lot of reading. And so one thing I might try to do is to maybe finish up the Riverworld series. I have 2 books left. I've finished 3 books. I have book 4 and book 5 left. And so maybe I'll try to make some good headway on these. And when I finish these, I'm going to do a kind of overall Riverworld series review. But I might have time to slip a few other things in the mix in between. So I'm going to keep June kind of open and loose. So you just have to watch the channel and see what comes out. So that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.